When you log into this system, it assumes that you have sat through the sittings and you will be marked as having been present. That is what is called in simple English, Senator Eddy, cheating a system. It's not the same with cheating. It's basic English, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader, proceed.
Yes.
And restrain yourself on the language that you're using. Make sure you...
No, what I need to restrain myself is a kind of English that I use, Mr. Speaker. Perhaps it will find better favor, Mr. Speaker, if I spoke in a simple language which everybody will appreciate and say that I haven't misled or insulted anybody, Mr. Speaker, because it is my plain understanding. Rarely do I lose my cool or speak things ill of others. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I was gracious enough not to mention who normally does these kind of things, yet the whole House knows, Mr. Speaker. So allow me to perhaps proceed, Mr. Speaker, without having to respond to... Mr. Speaker, what you need to protect me from Senator Eddy, because otherwise I'll easily be distracted. Mr. Speaker, I will continue to speak on a very important topic that the President touched, about the transformation that is happening in our economy. Mr. Speaker, it is a fact that cannot be disputed that our debt to GDP ratio is at an all-time high. That as we speak today, at 71% debt exposure, it simply means, Mr. Speaker, that for every 100 shillings that you are collecting, only 29 is left for counties to pay salaries, to do development. Mr. Speaker, it is a fact that not even a magician can work any miracle when you are handed over such an economy. But the question that we need to ask ourselves is, what has the President, what has this administration done? And I agree with him when he reports that this country is on a path of transformation, because the first and the simple basic thing that he has done is to reduce on our fiscal deficit from an upwards of 8 to 9% to 5.4 in this current financial year, Mr. Speaker. And I know for a fact, Mr. Speaker, that there is even a further supplementary budget, which our colleagues in the other House are likely to debate tomorrow, that is lowering that fiscal deficit, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that, one, we live within our means. That, two, Mr. Speaker, we are responsible in our borrowing. That, three, and most importantly, we tell Kenyans the truth, that for a long time, Mr. Speaker, we have lived a lie. Mr. Speaker, we are behaving like university or college students that I used to see in our university days, Mr. Speaker, where when they get help money, they want to buy all the flashiest of clothes, they want to buy the nicest of shoes, Mr. Speaker. Then eventually when they arrive at the university, they cannot even afford food, and they are left begging, Mr. Speaker. That is a kind of economy that we have been running for so many years. That's why, Mr. Speaker, when we say that we must tighten our belt, that we must teach our people that you cannot enjoy better services, Mr. Speaker, without having to pay a share of it, it is the truth and nothing can be done about it, Mr. Speaker. I know people, Mr. Speaker, want to play popular, want to play populist politics, Mr. Speaker, on this particular issue of taxation. But we have to be realistic and tell ourselves what are the options that are left with us as a country. Default is not an option. There is no responsible administration that is going to default on its debts, Mr. Speaker, and look straight into the eye of its citizens and say, because we did not want to make you feel the burden, allow us to default, Mr. Speaker. We know what has happened to countries that have defaulted, Mr. Speaker. Things will get even worse. But the President is simply telling the country that let me be a responsible father and tell you the hard facts that between you as the adult population today in the Republic of Kenya and the future generations, that is our children, our young people that are in schools, feeling the pain of a country that has been ravaged by debt, Mr. Speaker, we'd rather feel the pinch as a parent generation, Mr. Speaker, so that our children can inherit a sound economy, a country that is thriving, Mr. Speaker, a better nation than what was handed over to us, Mr. Speaker. And I agree with the President on that particular decision. Many a times, Mr. Speaker, people debate, people speak about these particular things. Oh, there's too much taxation, cost of living is too high. There is no assumption, Mr. Speaker. I know each and every part of the country is complaining about this particular issue. But the difference between us and our critics, Mr. Speaker, is that we are honest with our people, telling them that this is a cause, this is the reason why we are facing this particular situation, but there is hope in the hinterland, Mr. Speaker, that the things that we are doing today are for a better 2024, a better 2025, and an even more prosperous 2030s, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, If we decided to run a subsidized economy like our colleagues were doing, Mr. Speaker, you will know